Hello, YouTube community. It's Robert S., and welcome back to RobScure Music, where I hope to introduce you or reacquaint you with lesser-known artists and or albums that are out there in the musical universe. So today's video is actually going to be part 2 of a video that I did probably about 4 months ago, which was my top 16 Elton John albums. And I had chosen 16 because I was looking strictly at pure Elton John studio albums. I'm not looking, or didn't include, any live albums. I didn't include any duets. And when I say duets, I'm actually also including in that his fabulous album with Leon Russell that was called The Union. So that is not included as part of this. So in total, I had 31 studio albums that I was looking at. And if you look at or saw my video from 4 months ago, you'll see I had listed, like I said, my top 16. My number one, I'm sure, is not the same as a lot of people's number one, but it's one that was close to my heart, one that kind of got me started with Elton John back in 1971, and that was his album simply called Elton John. But I'll let you take a look at that video if you want to see my top choices. This video is actually going to be the bottom half of that list. So numbers 17 through 31. So let's jump right into it. At number 31, at the very bottom, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. I think it's almost unanimous when people are ranking Elton John albums, and that is 1979, Victim of Love. And man, were we all victims. Starts out with probably the worst cover of Johnny B. Good I've ever heard, and doesn't get any better. The only thing I could say about this album is that, it came out in 79, and it was just in time, I guess, for that whole jazzercise craze that we were riddled with in the 80s. Jane Fonda doing her workouts, and Richard Simmons doing his, what was it called, Dancing to the Oldies or something. They could have played this album and you could exercise right along to it. Other than that, I don't think anyone has any use for this album whatsoever. So, very bottom, number 31. Then we get to number 30, and I realized when I started pulling together my CDs and albums, I don't have this album. And I could have sworn I owned it, but number 30 is going to be Leather Jackets, an album that he released in 1986. And again, not a whole lot I can say about that album. So Leather Jackets is at number 30. At 29, I've got Breaking Hearts. Show you the track listing. This is a 1984 album. Does have sad songs, Say So Much, and that's about it. I mean, songs like, Who Wears These Shoes, Little Refrigerator, In Neon, Did He Shoot Her? Not classics by any stretch of the imagination. So, number 29. At 28, and this is probably one that people had a little bit lower, Ice on Fire. Again, let me show you the track listing. Oops. See if I can get it all in there. And this is an album that was released in '85. It's got Nikita on it, which I really like. And Wrap Her Up is okay. But again, not one of his better releases. So Ice on Fire comes in at number 28. Next we get to, at number 27, Sleeping with the Past. And I think a lot of people like this album, perhaps more than I do. 1989 album. It's pretty decent. It's got some good songs on it. You know, Club at the End of the Street, Sacrifice is a great song. But yeah, and Elton says this album's for you, Bernie. But not one of my favorites, so it only makes it at number 27. At number 26 is a somewhat more recent album in terms of Elton John, 2004's Peachtree Road. And I'll show you the track listing. So you've got Porch Swing and Tupelo's pretty good. Turn Out the Lights When You Leave. Nothing else is sort of jumping out at me from this album. Not one I listen to all that much, but still, it makes it to number 26. Then at 25, Wonderful Tonight. Excuse me, Wonderful Tonight. Wonderful Crazy Night. Got my Elton John and Eric Clapton mixed up. Wonderful Crazy Night. 2016 album. And somewhat, more upbeat. I like the sounds of some of the instrumentation, some of the songs on this album. So it elevated it to 25. Did I say 25? Yeah, 25. Next, number 24, Wedge Strikes Back. And this is a whole lot of stuff that he had collected in his mansion. There's a track listing for you. So this is a 1988 release, and of course it's got a couple really decent songs. I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That. What else? I thought there was another one on here. No, I guess that's it. That was the hit. I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That. He tried Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's Part 2. Honestly, I wish he hadn't. Town of Plenty, I guess, is pretty good. But again, when you have songs like called Poor Cow or Heavy Traffic, expect it to be towards the bottom. So that was number, 24. At number 23, The One. His Versace album. And, this is a pretty good album. You got, obviously, title track, The One. Runaway Train is good. The last song I seem to recall as being a pretty good song. I think about a son and father's relationship, or I should say strained relationship. And I think the son is sick and dying or something. And so The One at number 23. 23. Yes, 23. Losing track already. At number 22, The Fox. And I think this is a somewhat underrated album. Um, I actually thought when I was doing my rankings that this would come up a little bit higher, but not a bad showing. Again, you got the track listing here. And it's got Breaking Down Barriers. Just Like Belgium is a pretty good song. Elton's song is fantastic song about his homosexuality basically, and it ends with The Fox, which overall decent album. So that comes in at number 22. At 21, one of his again more recent releases, 2013's The Diving Board. This is actually a really good album. And again, much like The Fox, I thought would be a little bit higher, closer to 20. So, and at 22, I wasn't that far off. This one I actually thought would make my top 20, but I think what happened here is, as good as this album is, it's in my mind it suffers a little bit from, it's very piano driven, as a lot of Elton's music is, but it sort of has the same sort of tone or level, if you will, throughout the whole thing. So it gets a little bit, I don't want to say monotonous, but a little boring. I wish some of the songs would have just had a little bit more energy. I mean, you do get it with Take This Dirty Water, and certainly with Mexican Vacation, Kids in the Candlelight. But overall, and they come like towards the bottom last third of the album. So by the time you get to those, you're a little bit like, it's almost like you're hearing the same sort of music over and over. And as I'm looking at this, there's a song here, Oscar Wilde Gets Out. And that song seriously sounds to me like something that he could have included, or maybe he wrote it around the time of the Captain and the Kid album. It's got that same sort of vibe to it. So, but overall, very good album. So that's number 21. Then at 20, we have the 1995 album, Made in England. With the track listing, if I can avoid some glare. And, this has got, excuse me, Believe is a great song, Made in England. Trying to remember what the single was from this. I guess Believe. But I enjoy this album a lot. So this makes it to number 20. Gets into my top 20. Then we got number 19, Jump Up. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the album itself, I'm sure you're very familiar with the song Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny, which was written as a tribute to John Lennon after his unfortunate end. But again, great album. Dear John, Spiteful Child, Ball and Chain, Legal Boys, Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is a fantastic song. And obviously Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny is probably the best John Lennon tribute song. So, number 19. At 18, his newest release of his first album that was never released, Regimental Sergeant Zippo. This was a Record Store Day release in 2021. And this was actually to be the first album released by Bernie and Elton. Of course, it never got released, so they came out with, instead they had released Empty Sky. But you listen to this now, and I'll honestly, this took me several listens to sort of appreciate, but the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. And that's why, honestly, it's climbed up to number 18. So almost in the top half. A couple more listens, it might get up there. And then number 17, so the very top of my lower half, if you will, 21 at 33. And I'm not seeing the songs, so let me pull this out. You've got on side 1, which is this side, Chasing the Crown, and Little Genie, of course, which was the hit. Sartorial Eloquence, absolutely beautiful song. White Lady, White Powder, Dear God. Overall, very good album. Again, 21 at 33. So that's it. I finally completed this ranking of the 31 studio albums released by Elton John. Again, if you want to take in fact, I'll put a link to the top half, the 1 through 16, below in the description. Thank you all for watching. Stay well, friends, and remember, if the music strikes a chord, let it play.